So I watched this movie and kind of came unexpected. It's the title could be anything really. You know, the new girlfriend doesn't really tell you much of anything. It could be a rom-com, which it wasn't. It was just mostly plain drama. It literally had just one moment of humor. Um, and it could be anything literally. First, I thought it was going to be an extramarital affair, and in a way it is, but in a way it isn't. I mean, it has multiple layers, I guess one could say. I didn't even look at the poster for some reason. Well, I mean, just the less one knows really before watching movies, I think, the better. Um, but yeah, it has its ups and downs. It's a strange one. All the relationships are very strange there, and there were a couple of moments when reality wasn't even certain. Mostly it was, but it skirts around it. It's one of those. It's not an ultra sort of fantastic or even sort of you know dreamlike sort of movie, but it has a few moments. Yeah, there is literally a dream sequence, so quite a creepy dream sequence, shall one say. Um, but yeah, it was interesting in a way. I thought it was interesting. I suppose it's sort of this discovering in a way possibilities, and yet it's also depressing at the same time. I mean, it begins with a funeral. It's pretty depressing. Um, then it continues on. The music, right? The music should absolutely be mentioned. Music is amazing, very melancholic, generally, but at the same time, melancholic music can still be amazing. And it was the piano was really something else. Um, I definitely want to see more of the composer's music. If he had composed any other movies, I don't know. So yeah, it's it's something. Uh, as I said, it has multiple layers. So it's strange because one might ask, it's is it technically, it's because in a way it's sort of a make believe sort of world, and just like these attempts to um in a way where what and how people dress, that is the projection, right? They want to show to the outside world, um you know and one might not really think too much of clothes or fashion or anything, but it's understandable how people do think like that, how they want to show this side to to the world, and it creates a certain reality. It's more of a sort of sub reality in a way. It's not something set in stone. It's not like hormones though, which would change physicality. It's just hovering up on the surface. But this is what I do not get with the ending there. Like, why on earth did she say that she misses Virginia when later on she seems, I think what happened is that um she was overcome with the fantasy, with this make believe world. She almost forgot. It's a bit absurd though at the same time, because I mean, it's not like there wasn't any other hint, um, you know, and they are just clothes ultimately. They're not hormones that physically change your body. So it's pretty obvious that but then again, she seems to have given in to this spell. Like she at one point, she actually invented something about his sexuality, which he said wasn't true. Um, so she became a princess herself, for what it is, and that's what sort of makes it interesting, I suppose. Uh, there are multiple layers to the reality, and so I suppose she might have even thought that she wasn't, in the sense, uh, um, you know, ignoring really what like when her boyfriend said, asked her whether she's seeing David, and she said no. At that point, it was really no. But later on, when they did go even further, it didn't actually happen in the movie, but it would have made sense if she repeated the no, because she was building up this fantasy in her mind, it seems. And just like David said himself, that he was born in a cauliflower or something is a sort of metaphor of a state in between, not a physical state in between per se, though. So not intersex or transsexual, which is physically altered. It more of a superficial, sociological impression, but they do take it much further in terms of the relationship. So it's not just it doesn't just remain superficial in the sense. I mean, it began superficially, going into a mall, shopping and such. That's superficial, one can easily say. But then it goes even further and further. They delve into Laura's memories of her that friend's childhood and such. So there are multiple layers, and they build up slowly. So that's what's interesting, I suppose. We could say it's so in the sense, But what I didn't get is why at the end, why she suddenly just realized and was so shocked that she left the building, went back to her workplace, and then looked from above, and then because of that the accident happened because she sent a text, etc. So sort of butterfly effect sort of thing, and the whole cause of it all was absurd because I mean, I can understand she was building this fantasy in her mind, but she knew she was going further with it. So they were getting intimate. So what's the point then? You either I mean, in the sense, she was selfish there. It's fine if people build up fantasies, but then you don't just, I mean, become intimate and somehow think that your fantasies are becoming reality. I mean, you can become intimate, but the fantasy doesn't just magically change reality. So I don't get why she suddenly had this shock when she suddenly saw uh, I just it's absurd, and and then what she said was even more absurd, the most absurd thing in the entire movie, I think, because I mean, it's nobody ever denied that. It's just it was. I mean, both of them practically were building up this fantasy. That was the whole point. And but somehow she seems to have forgotten that, yeah, it was. Well, nobody denies that cross dressing is a fantasy. Um, but in a sense, she was selfish because she thought it was fine for her to build up this fantasy, but then somehow others shouldn't. She insulted him at a couple of points in the movie. So it's she was selfish, and then somehow they still ended up together at the end. So that's a bit, but I guess they just wanted the movie to end in a good way. But she was still selfish throughout because people can build up fantasies all they want, but you cannot think that y- you're so self obsessed with your own fantasy that you forget. I mean, ideally, when there is a fantasy, uh, well, it's side by side with reality. So it's not quite, you know, kind of like a movie itself. When one watches a movie, one still knows it's a movie. It's ideal to really forget, belief suspended and such disbelief that is, but reality is still there, and one might need to pause at some point, do something else, etc. Because of reality, whether reality presses upon or not, or whatever. But she seems to have just forgotten that and somehow blamed others for her forgetting it. And she also blamed him a couple of times, throughout the movie for his own usage of fantasy. I mean, it's absurd, nobody blamed her for her. I mean, she was clearly dressing up in some sort of manner as well, and when they went out, as reminded me of some sort of priest. I'm not sure what she was aiming at. It seems like some sort of priest with a collar and whatnot. So I don't know about that really. What she was trying to do there. Nobody told her anything about her. Nobody told her uh, anything negative, and yet she did tell him. So she was selfish, She, in this sense, she isn't a. I mean, one can relate to her, feeling sad for losing a friend. Sure enough, one can separate this, I suppose. But what happened during the movie itself was selfish of her, really. So I suppose besides the point mainly where they went to the countryside there, and she was reminiscing, and it got to her. Yeah, that was melancholic. But other than that, she was she seemed to think that she can fulfill her fantasies, and yet others cannot fulfill theirs. Of course, if others if others do not fulfill theirs, then I mean they were fulfilling theirs by being with her. So it was self-defeating in this sense for her to do that. Also, I noticed that the director is gay himself, apparently, and so this makes it a bit unfair for the. I don't think he wrote it so, but still makes it unfair at one point for him to say, that this way of being is more normal than that way of being, At one point that was said. Um, he didn't write it though, I think. No, well, he wrote the screenplay apparently. But no, originally someone called Ruth Randall wrote it. What? I, an English author of thrillers and psychology. Okay, I don't think this was either of them. Actually, seems a bit out of place, but um, strange. Why would an author of thrillers and psychological murder write this? Um, so yeah, it seems like yeah, hers, yeah, short story apparently. Must have been like the odd one out or something. I mean, it's neither a thriller, mostly, nor a psychological murder mystery. Apparently she created someone called Inspector Wexford. So she was like Agatha Christie a bit, I'm assuming. 23 novels. Huh, never heard of her. Yeah, these people are strange. The doctor also is prolific, apparently. Yeah, I thought this was some obscure movie from some obscure people, but well, the movie itself possibly relatively obscure. It did win apparently a couple of accolades here. Prix Jacques Prévert du Scénario, Best Adaptation, and Sebastian Award from the San Sebastian Film Festival. Never even heard of these two, but okay. But yeah, it had, so as I said, it had a bit, a few unfair things in the script itself, in the story. But otherwise, it was still multi-layered, so interesting still. I just don't know sometimes, why movies have these little things that are just seemingly idiotic, really, or even consistent. But I guess reality isn't perfect, so I guess it reflects reality. But yeah, it was though an interesting exploration of sociological expectations, what happens when baby loses their mother. I guess it makes sense for yeah. I mean, but yeah, it was interesting. There were themes that don't normally think about, so it's an interesting sort of novel exploration of uh, interrelated concepts, about gender and sex, and yeah, when it comes to how to raise children and how relationships work and how fantasy intertwines with reality. It was interesting in the sense, yeah. I mean, it is mostly, yeah. It's a plain drama, mainly melancholic. I think the best aspect, though, definitely, I think, is the music. The music by Philippe Rombi, apparently. Rombi. It was amazing. I really liked it. I should really just listen to it even outside of this. Uh, it was quite something, quite melancholic, quite soothing in a way still. So yeah, it's an interesting movie, interesting film. I could possibly watch others from the same director. We'll see. Yeah, this was interesting. This is the first I've ever watched from this director, so we'll see what others are like. I suppose if I ever continue, ever watch again, you know, ever come across him again, we'll see.